Hey guys, and welcome back to another challenge video right here on TetraBitGaming, where we try to tackle games in some unconventional ways. This time I'm shaking things up and not doing a Super Mario 64 challenge, but instead going way back to the original Super Mario Bros. For the NES. But oh no, we're not just using a regular controller, these bad boys are making their return. Yep, I'm gonna be trying to beat this 34-year-old game with a Rock Band drum kit. Normally when I play this game, I use at least one of the hidden warp zones, but for this challenge I will be aiming to beat every single level in the game. Yeah, what could go wrong? Anyways, with all of that said, time to get back in the saddle and begin in 3, 2, 1. World 1-1, of course, starts off this challenge, but first let's lay down what the controls are. Since this is an NES game, unfortunately I don't get to make use of all of the inputs on this kit. Anyways, so pressing down on the right or left foot pedal moves Mario in the respective direction, green pad is set to the A button to make Mario jump, and finally the blue pad is set to the B button, which lets Mario sprint and throw fireballs. But right away, we've already reached our first obstacle, this pipe here, and it's apparent that this setup just won't work. Off to a great start. Due to how the drum controller works, the game only registers the input for the split second that the drumstick hits the pad. So to jump any higher than like 2 tiles, it looks like holding the button is required. And if you're wondering, no, unfortunately you can't just press the stick against the pad to hold it down, and hitting the drums fast enough doesn't help either. I'm pretty sure this game runs at 60 frames per second, so I'd basically have to hit the drum close to 60 times in 1 second to trick the game into thinking that I'm holding it down. Yeah, no thanks. So time to get a bit more creative with the control setup. Since we need something held down to jump higher, I've now assigned it to the left foot pedal, and going left is now set to the blue pad and running the green pad. Oh yeah, I guess we need to press down to enter warp pipes at some point, so I've also set that to the yellow pad. Anyway, let's get back on track, shall we? Now with the ability to jump higher than 2 tiles, we can clear these pipes, head down into the underground coin room, and complete the level. So far so good. Now on to World 1-2, and this course was surprisingly difficult this way. I guess I was still trying to get used to this control setup. Going back to the left when I needed to proved to be pretty annoying, but I guess this is how it's gotta be. Either way, I died quite a few times here, but eventually I was able to dodge all the enemies and land all the jumps to complete the level. World 1-3 is where the game really started to test my platforming abilities with the drum controller. This level has many moving platforms and way more spots to fall off and die than I'd like, but thankfully it's quite a short level, so with that one down, it's off to the first castle stage we go. With World 1-4, we get our first taste of the Super Mario Bros. Castle stage experience, and honestly, it wasn't all too bad, outside of just timing a few jumps properly and avoiding these pesky fire bars. And now we have our first bout with Bowser. Not nearly as exciting of a fight as the ones in Super Mario 64, but this proved to be pretty tough nonetheless. Especially since I kept forgetting that you can't jump through this moving platform. But after several attempts, I was finally able to jump over to hit the axe switch to kill the first Bowser fake. Since apparently the princess is in another castle, onwards we march to World 2-1. Nothing too crazy here, just a few hops, and it was all good. Well, it was all good up until my game bugged out for me here, as the sprite for the spring kind of just disappeared for some reason. And then when I tried jumping on it, Mario got stuck and the game was soft locked. Yay! 2-2 is the first water level in this challenge, and since the B button doesn't really do anything for us here, this level was all about the footwork. This stage was basically just focusing on avoiding getting hit by all the cheap and blooper enemies. Also, the parts of the stage with a pit actually suck you down, so I had to stomp the left foot pedal even faster to avoid a watery demise. The cheeps may have taken a few lives from me here, but eventually I was able to get to the end pipe and clear the level. World 2-3 is a pretty straightforward level, but as you can see, there may or may not be a few flying cheeps that want to prevent us from getting to the end. Not gonna lie, it was pretty tough to avoid all of them since their trajectories are pretty unpredictable, and all the green pad mashing was certainly working up a sweat at this point. Honestly though, the hardest part here for me was the last part with these platforms that are placed closely together, which requires slower and shorter jumps. At this point, I essentially had a lead right foot now from basically constantly holding it down, that it was pretty tough to process in my mind that I needed to slow down and time my jumps while also keeping track of all the cheeps. Thankfully, this section is right at the end of the level, so after I was able to get past that part, 2-3 was over. The next Bowser stage wasn't too bad, just some more fire bars to dodge and platforms that needed some well-timed jumps. 2 jumps at the end here with Bowser, and that's a quarter of the game in the books. Now on to World 3-1, where we have the first nighttime level in the game. There was a warp pipe shortcut that helped out a bit, as well as a star power-up to help us get through the enemies. Well, most of them anyway. It took a few more attempts, but when I ran fast enough and avoided the enemies at the end, I was able to make it through. World 3-2 is next, and this one was pretty alright. Just jumping over some enemies and a few gaps. Not too much to say here, but definitely not complaining. It was nice to have an easier level for a change. World 3-3 is very reminiscent of World 1-3 from earlier, but this time with some platforms that drop, some on a pulley system, and of course more moving ones. Just like that stage, however, this one was a big test of my platforming skill on the kit. Thankfully, I'm a pro gamer, with some pro gamer moves. The third castle stage was more of the same we've seen already, just more precise jumps to avoid, or not avoid, fire obstacles. Thankfully, I was Fire Mario for this Bowser fight, so I was able to use my invincibility frames after getting hit once to sneak past him and drop the bridge under him. Come on, Butt Boy, just tell me where she is already. World 4-1 is thankfully a level I'm quite familiar with, as I usually play through it when I play through the game after using the first warp zone. I normally don't have too much trouble with this stage, but the spinies that Lakitu throws certainly made this one not a cakewalk for this challenge. Luckily for me though, there's another warp pipe here that I can use to skip a chunk of the level, and also get me a much needed mushroom. Adios, Lakitu, we are off to World 4-2. Like I said, normally when I play this game, I just take all the warp zone shortcuts to World 8. So as such, I typically skip most of this stage, so I'm not all that familiar with it. At first, I thought I had big brain IQ to just jump up to the top section and run over the entire level, but I made the mistake of staying up there too long and got to the stage's second and worse warp zone. Unfortunately, like I said at the beginning, for this challenge, warp zones aren't allowed, even if they basically just skip 2 levels. So time to try again. Thankfully, I was still able to skip most of the stage here, so it was just that last segment that I needed to come down and jump over the pipe here. Nothing too scary. What is scary, however, is World 4-3, which again required a lot of pretty tough jumps. Well, tough when using a drum kit as the controller anyway. With focus at a maximum, I popped off and made a bunch of jumps, which honestly I surprised myself with. Guess I was finally getting the hang of this drum thing. World 4-4 is next, and it was so far the easiest castle stage I've done. I guess most of the challenge for this level is just knowing the right path to take, but once you know that, it's easy no matter what stupid controller you play this game with. Once again, I had more invincibility frames at my disposal, so on my first try here, the 4th Bowser was killed. And just like that, we are halfway done. Before we go on, quick shameless plug here, I tend to stream these challenges over on Twitch and post the full recordings or highlights over on my second channel, TetraBit+. So if you're interested in seeing them live, in full, or their highlights, be sure to follow over on Twitch and subscribe to my second channel. Links will be in the description. Back on track now, World 5-1 was really similar to 3-2 from earlier and was overall pretty easy. Again, just more jumping over a few enemies and gaps here. World 5-2 wouldn't be too bad either if it weren't for these guys. If you've been around the channel for a while now, you may know I am no fan of Hammer Brothers in side-scrolling Mario games, and this level in this challenge further cemented my distaste for them. Their unpredictability coupled with my handicapped controls made them harder to bypass than ever. Like, I honestly ended up just relying on good RNG and hoping that they just wouldn't be in my way when they came on screen. After bypassing them here though, the rest was smooth sailing in comparison. World 5-3 is basically identical to World 1-3, save for more narrow orange platforms as well as a non-stop barrage of bullet bills. Not much to say here that I didn't already for World 1-3, just had to be more mindful of the bullet bill onslaughts. 5-4 is similarly just a copy of 2-4, but with a few more fire bars and potaboos. Another jump, another Bowser. World 6-1 is where Lakitu makes his big return. Just have to again focus on avoiding the spinies here and everything will go swell. World 6-2 was a pretty lengthy level, or at least it felt that way compared to the previous levels. A few of the piranha plants here gave me some trouble, but that's about it. World 6-3 was definitely the most difficult stage of the challenge so far. The narrow and moving platforms all required some really precisely timed jumps, which I may have missed once or twice. I do not recommend this level for those who lack patience like me. Castle 6-4 is yet again another copy, this time of World 1-4. I can see the creative juices were really flowing at this point. After barely slipping under Bowser here, that's another world down. 2 more to go. World 7-1 was all about avoiding bullet bills again, and oh yeah, we got more of these guys again too. Yippee! I almost got to the end until somehow this Buzzy Beetle killed me even though I clearly jumped on top of him. Very cool, thank you. World 7-2 is up and is the next and only other water level in this game. Huh, always thought there was more. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately for this challenge, it's again a copy of World 2-2. So I guess there's really basically only one water level in this whole game. It's again just more blooper and cheap avoiding here. Wouldn't it be funny if this game had even more reused levels? It's World 2-3 again. Please rewind to the 4-minute 50-second mark of this video to hear about it again. Thankfully 7-4 isn't a reused stage, although it is similar in style to 4-4. Once you know the correct path to take, it's pretty easy. With that fake Bowser down, it's time for the final stretch of this game, World 8. With previous experience with this world, I already knew the pain that was ahead, starting with World 8-1. These stages are no joke, and required my absolute focus and everything I've learned about playing this game on the Rock Band drums up to this point. 8-1 had a lot of enemies to avoid, but the hardest part was honestly all the really narrow platforms and jumps. Yeah, I died a lot here. Lakitu makes another return in World 8-2, but at least he leaves early on, and this level is a bit shorter. A few more precise jumps, and we are almost there. World 8-3 features more of my friends, the Hammer Bros. A lot of them. Once again, I basically had to try and avoid them as much as possible and just hope that I could slip past them without getting bonked by their hammers. 8-3 took quite a while, but it is doable. Now on to the last level. During the stream, my chat was super helpful with helping me figure out the correct path here, so this level honestly wasn't all too bad. The only really tough parts were these Paracoopas here, as well as the underwater segments. I'm sure the final Bowser fight will be quite tough though. Okay. Well, that was lucky. And there it is. Looks like it is indeed 100% possible to beat Super Mario Bros. With only using a Rock Band drum kit as the controller. As usual with these challenges, this absolutely was not the most fun or enjoyable way to play this game, but it was interesting to replay it with a more limiting control setup. Really gave me a newfound appreciation of some of the platforming in this game, that's for sure. But anyways guys, that will be it for this challenge video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and want to see me do more unconventional challenges like this in the future, be sure to subscribe and slap the like button down below. It really helps me out a lot. And also be sure to check out some of my other challenge videos by clicking on the card right here. If you want to stay even more up to date with me and the channel, be sure to subscribe here and swing by my Twitter and other social media things, all of which will be linked in the description below. And if you would like to support the channel, check out my merch at TetraBitGaming.com and consider becoming a channel member by clicking the big join button below. But as always guys, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you in a bit.